Welcome to video 3 for our December 24 precinct case, Rodnim. We're going to start with KPIs, key performance indicators. First things first, let's make sure that we're familiar with the hierarchy. I'm talking of, broadly speaking, moving down from overall corporate objectives through to goals, through to KPIs and CSFs. Make sure that we look at past questions where KPIs are mentioned. Note that, as you'll see below, the examiner on occasion asks students to come up with new typical KPIs within the exam. Let's look for those questions. Now, what we see here is within this industry, note, irrespective of size, they use similar KPIs on both sides of the coin. Now, this area of non-financial performance, we know how important that is within SBL and indeed in business generally speaking, but this area has been focused on heavily in questions in SBL and indeed other case study style exams for 10 to 15 years. The whole idea that a la the balanced scorecard, we need to measure other areas. Now, on the subject of BS and indeed Kaplan's 4 perspectives, let's make sure we have a feel for that. Also, let's make sure outside of what we see below, i.e. financial KPIs and indeed non-financial, that we consider other KPIs. Where to look? Online. First area, what we would expect, obviously fee income growth and indeed operating profit margin. The only issue that I would have here in terms of these two and only KPIs for broadly all businesses, large or small, is I think that the area of, let's say, corporate versus private versus sort of government or public sector needs to be broken down a little bit more. I would suggest, certainly with corporate being the largest fee earning area, I would have thought the margins are slightly different to, let's say, private individuals or indeed public bodies. Public bodies might be slightly more cash strapped than corporates. So for me, this area could be opened up just purely from the financial side. Outside of that, we'll see in terms of the non-financial KPIs, tender success, client satisfaction, and indeed environmental sustainability. Again, I'd ask the question, well, how about others? What others? What can we come up with? Now, certainly there's good coverage here, but the bottom line is that this is a really popular SBL stroke case study exam style area. So outside of looking at the core theory, whether or not it's balanced scorecard or elsewhere, let's look online. Moving from there, when we think about Mendelow's matrix, and you'll see within the strategic analysis that I've populated the 4 quadrants. Certainly this area of the IEO, there's always some sort of body, some sort of organization sort of overseeing. And for me, they're keep satisfied. Often students get confused and they tend to put not just industry bodies, but also government, regulators, etc., into the key player area on the basis high power, high interest. But really, these organizations, although they have a good cause and obviously good aims, H&S, environment practices, quality, etc., they're not interested until you do something wrong. So for me, they're certainly keep satisfied. Let's make a note when we come to Mendelow's matrix of 2 key points. The first, the ease at which we can score marks, and secondly, where I've pigeonholed each of the key stakeholders, whether or not that's the 3 managers, indeed the 2 partners, low-level staff, suppliers, etc., etc., etc. Okay? Now, in terms of moving forward from here, this was a short video. As I said from the off, I wanted to keep it bite-sized. Let's make sure, I would suggest, going from video to video, that you do your homework. I wouldn't go through all 6 and then go back round. Do it when it's fresh. In other words, when you've listened to it, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and then refer back to it from time to time. I hope you found that video helpful. Please do join me for video 4 shortly. Thanks for listening.